Today's episode is sponsored by Learning Blade. Middle school is the ideal time for career exploration. With Learning Blade, you can easily integrate STEM and career awareness concepts into your classroom. Find out if this resource is free in your state at learningblade.com. Thanks, Learning Blade. Hey, is this thing on? Are we recording? Can I get a tech person? Oh, for the love of ed tech. Joining me today is Kellie Anderson, assistant professor and faculty co-op advisor for the IT unit at the University of Cincinnati. So, hey, Kellie.
Hey, Kara. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And I'm curious kind of how your journey into education landed you where you are. So, can you talk a little bit about that first?
Yeah, it's quite windy, so I will
I
try to
love a
give you
windy.
I will try to give you the shortened version, but essentially I went to Xavier University. I got my master's in education thinking that I was going to be a high school social studies teacher.
Okay.
And that was about, I don't know, I was like 25 or so at that time. So had this whole plan, right? We have a plan in place and we think that it will go the way that we think it will go. Well, I came out of school and happened to be right during the recession.
Mm,
And unlike right now, where teachers are needed, at the time there were not a lot of middle school or high school social studies teaching positions available. And so I had my master's in education, I'm ready to go, and there are no jobs. So I did some long-term sub things for a while, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to, kind of continue this route of uncertainty and will a position come up, will it not? Um, or do I make a decision to pivot a little bit? And that's what I did. And I moved into the ed tech side of education.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
at the time, I, called it like the business side of education. Now it has more of like a name, ed tech, right?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because when you're in college, whether it's getting your bachelor's or your master's, you are always told about the teaching route. Like you're teaching, going into a classroom. You're not told, well, at least I wasn't, that there's this whole realm of possibility beyond the classroom for educators, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I was opened up to that world, and within it, really did get into more of the business side of that with marketing and technology, some product development, and even some sales. And so I was with a company that was in the higher education and in K-12 business within enrollment management. So helping
Oh, interesting.
schools, yeah, so it was Hobson's at the time. They had
Okay.
a product called Naviance, and that was in the K-12 side, and then they helped on the higher education side with like enrollment management, admissions, marketing stuff. So
Hmm.
I was on that side. I was asked to go to a company called niche.com and helped
Okay.
build, do you know Niche?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
helped build they didn't have a formalized sales team or customer success team at the time. So I built that from the ground up.
Okay.
And yeah, so went in that direction. And then from there, I'd always wanted to be like, I'm a builder. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but wasn't really sure how that would work and what I would do. And I had just had my first son, and we had moved all the way out to Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, nice.
And I thought, well, now's the time to do it. And so for the last 7, 8 years, I've really been working for myself on the career coaching side of things and really helping people at all different levels navigate their careers and job search and resumes and all of that. So, an opportunity opened up at the University of Cincinnati 2 years ago, and
Okay.
they needed someone to come in and teach as an adjunct, almost like a full time adjunct, in
Okay.
two different divisions. And so I did that for a year. And then this opportunity to come on as an assistant professor and faculty co op advisor with our IT unit came up and like a permanent role. And I said, this is awesome. I love it. There's so much in terms of um, just helping students know what it's like out there in the real world and giving them practice to get to a place where they can land eventually on their own at a company and thrive. So that's where we are at this point.
That's so cool. Talking about the the co-op at UC, for those who may not know much about what it is or what that model is, can you just explain that a little bit and how it benefits students?
Yes.
Okay.
So we use co-op, that's short for cooperative education. And the University of Cincinnati is really what they call the father of cooperative education. For many decades, we've been the leader in this space. And what it means is that students are able to work with a company for a semester and then take classes for a semester and go back and work for a company for a semester and then go back to classes for a semester. So it's an off and on scenario. And the whole goal is that, I mean, really, when we talk about experiential learning and experiential education, it is helping these students intertwine their academics with what they will encounter when they enter the workforce. And we've just found it is the best way to learn. And I'm sure that you've seen that in your K-12 years when you put students in scenarios to problem solve and figure it out and understand what it's like to be outside of the classroom, really cool, innovative things happen. And
Mhm.
that's what we tend to find here. So we have three mandatory co op programs at the University of Cincinnati. So one
Okay.
is with our DAP, our college, which is our design and architecture school or
Okay.
college. And then we also have our College of Engineering. They have a mandatory co-op program, and then our School of IT. And so I
Okay.
represent the School of IT. What that means is that our students, so our IT and cybersecurity students, are required to co-op for 5 semesters throughout college.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5
That's
semesters.
cool.
Yes. And before that, so they cannot co-op until they take all of their required first year classes, like
Okay.
IT classes. And then they also have to take Introduction to Cooperative Education, which is a course that
Okay.
explains, what is co-op? Exactly kind of what I've described to you. Get their resume ready, get their, LinkedIn profile. We do a lot in terms of interviewing skills and professional development, executive functioning, all of that so that we know that they will be able to get, their first co-op as sophomores, hopefully.
Wow. So, okay, do they stay with like wherever they're placed in the beginning? Is that where they stay for the 5 semester, or does it depend or
It
o-
depends. So we
okay.
have some students, they will find a company and they will stay with them throughout and
Okay.
end up moving on to a full-time job with them. We have
Okay.
other students where they will work for a semester, and the company likes to rotate students in and out. So they have more of a policy where, okay, you get a co-op student in, and then we want another co-op student to give them the
Gotcha.
same experience. So
Okay.
it it just depends on the student and the company.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a very
Program.
cool model, and when you
Yeah.
hear people who have gone through it, they will tell you it's very forward thinking. There are not a
Yeah.
lot of schools, of colleges that are doing this, and if they are, it's more of them just starting the process out or doing it as internships, rather than these, like, mandatory co-op rotations that we require.
That's so cool. And I also didn't know, like, UC's been is it like something crazy, like 100 years or something that
Yeah,
it's been going on? Because I was like, "Oh my
yes,
gosh," like, to think back that far,
yes,
like, that
that it
is,
was
like,
so innovative.
revolutionary. Yeah,
Right, right,
yeah. I was like, "That's
exactly.
bizarre, but
Yeah.
really cool."
And then I should note too that
Mhm.
like my title is assistant professor and faculty co-op advisor. So what that means is that I teach these professional development introduction to co-op classes to our students, but then I'm also a co-op advisor. So I have a cohort of about 300 IT and cybersecurity students that I am advising and guiding throughout this process. So they get an academic advisor, like any college or university that you'll go to, students will get an academic
Yeah,
advisor, but then our students also get access to a co-op advisor as well, which is pretty unique.
yeah, which is really nice. That reminds me of, like, I don't know, like, when you're student teaching and you have your I don't
Yes.
remember I forget what our person was called, but it was like she would meet with you and, like, talk
Yes,
about, like, how things are going and troubleshoot with you and that kind of stuff. So,
exactly.
yeah, okay, which is valuable, especially if you have a good one.
It is. Very valuable.
Oh gosh. Okay, so, okay, yeah, I guess this makes sense too because and you I guess you already answered this really, but how early in their college journey do students typically start the co-ops? But it's really after their, like, freshman required classes or they've completed
Correct.
those? Can they
Correct.
start freshman year potentially if they've done, like, coursework in high school that's like college prep, or is that really unheard of?
So they have to take that intro to co-op class, and typically they'll take that either fall or spring semester. So that's like a no, you have to take that before you do anything.
Okay.
And typically, for most students, the earliest that they would start a co-op would be the summer semester like of their
Uh,
freshman year.
year, okay,
Most are starting Most are starting their fall or spring semester of their sophomore year.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Alright. What types of companies or industries are the UCIT students working with during their co-op placements, and how do these opportunities help shape their long-term career paths?
So what's really cool about what we do at UC is we have within, and I hesitate to say too much because I don't want to confuse you with the School of IT and then, so I'm trying to streamline this so that it all makes sense. But we have a specific college that all of this falls under. So even though I serve students that are in the School of IT, I
Uh-huh.
don't sit in the School of IT.
Gotcha.
I sit in the College of Cooperative Education and Professional Studies. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So within that college, we also have a partnership development team, and their sole job is to build relationships with employers
Wow.
and companies. And they've been doing this for a long time. So we have these partners that we have helped build their co-op programs over the years. And we have new partners that are coming in that we're helping to build these programs. And a lot of them are really big corporations within Cincinnati or outside of Cincinnati. Fifth Third Bank, Great American Insurance, Kroger is a big partner of ours. And then we also have small businesses, right? That
Okay.
maybe they don't have a dedicated team for co-op placements or a dedicated team for entry level professionals, but we are helping them understand what it means to have a co-op employee with you and how to mentor and guide, because that's part of the process as well. It's not just that they're working, but they're also receiving that professional development. They're doing reflections, they're meeting with their supervisors and all of that. So we have a host of companies, big and small, that we're working with and that we have been working with for quite a while. And we're
Okay.
finding in IT and cybersecurity specifically that um, a lot of times it's these smaller companies that need that tech help,
Yeah.
and we have more and more students. We do have the students that are working with the bigger companies with established programs, but we have more and more students going to some of these smaller businesses or even startups, where they're really making a massive impact on their technology goals.
Wow. And how cool. So I'm also assuming there are criteria that the companies have to almost like meet to ensure that the students are getting like X, Y, and Z
Yes.
while they're there.
So so
Okay.
there are requirements, but it's not a heavy lift. And I think that's the beauty of this program, because when you think about professionals and companies and all the responsibilities that they have, and to take on a young student and to have to train them, and like, it's a big lift. It can be
Yeah.
a heavy lift, right? And so the beauty of what we offer is that most of the work is on the student. So the student is required during the co-op to fill out like student reports and
Okay.
reflections. But then there is a point within the semester where they have to meet with their supervisor. Well, they're likely meeting with their supervisor anyway, so they're just
Mhm.
weaving their co-op conversation into these already established meetings instead of having to schedule separate meetings just to talk about co-op.
Okay.
And then the other thing is employers or companies are given the opportunity at the end of a semester to evaluate student performance, but it's not required. And so we send it to them, we ask them to complete it, but the student doesn't get docked, right? Their grade
Okay.
doesn't get docked if the employer doesn't fill it out. So
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
really not that big of a lift on their
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
You have the training piece when a new student comes in, and you have to train them on your own technology and all of that, but it would be the same as if you're hiring and onboarding a new
An
employee.
employee. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. Teachers, you can now earn contact hours toward grad credit for listening to the podcast.
Visit fortheloveofedtech.org for more information.
So, okay, from your perspective, what skills or experiences from high school best prepare students for success in co ops?
I will say across IT, across every space really right now, what I am seeing the executive functioning skills, the professional development skills, students need a lot of work. So they come to us, and there's not a lot. Let me start by saying this, they are wonderful people. They are wonderful students. They are so eager to learn. They are so excited to get out there and co op and meet companies and network. All of that is there.
Mhm.
It's the organizational skills, it's the time management piece, it's the accountability part, it is the ability to handle multiple tasks at one time. We don't place students in jobs. So students don't come to us and we say, okay, Joe, we are matching you or placing you with Great American Insurance. The students are required to find their placements.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Now, we give them all the tools they need, right? They each
Mhm.
have a co-op advisor. We have multiple resources around campus in the School of IT within my college. We have a partnership development team that I mentioned that is facilitating job opportunities and building networking opportunities, all of that. So we give students the tools and the resources. They don't always choose to use them. And
Mm.
I don't think that's anything new. If we
Yeah,
have
but
K-12 teachers that are listening to this, it's
mhm.
probably things they're shaking their head at, like, "Yes, yes, we see this," right? But there's nothing magic that once they graduate high school, they come to college and suddenly those skills appear.
Mhm.
And so it's less, I think, about how to do the job, or in my case, IT, like the technical skills, because those are the things the students are most excited to gain.
Mhm.
And so they'll do that, right? They'll take their classes, they'll do upskilling opportunities, all of that. But if there's any way to facilitate more of that professional development and those executive functioning skills, that is what we're seeing really, really lacking in these students right now.
Sounds familiar.
And I would say, I can safely say that's across the board.
Yeah. On that topic a little bit is how can K-12 educators better expose students to the possibilities of IT careers, especially those who may not see themselves in tech roles?
I was just having this conversation with a friend who is a high school teacher, and it's interesting because I don't know that I have the right answer, but it's something that's been on my mind lately. In the past 5 to 10 years, I have seen the K-12 world really start to push students in the direction of choosing a path early on.
Mhm.
And I think exploring, like the exploration piece of exploring career opportunities is wonderful to do from the start. I mean, you can do that in elementary school, middle school, high school. I'm afraid what's starting to happen is that we are putting pressure on students to pick a path too early.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that path doesn't work out, as we know as adults, right?
Yep.
Or it's windy, like we talked about, takes you in
Mhm.
different directions. And students don't know how to pivot. So
Yeah.
if the path doesn't work, right? So if they from the start said, "I want to be a teacher," and then something happens and they can't be a teacher,
Mhm.
they are lost with how to look at a parallel plan or to pivot a little bit to figure out what is next. So when it comes to IT, I think the goal is how do we just explore?
Yeah.
And 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 we're able to do that, I think, just by hands-on projects and activities, and it's really just exposure. So it's less about, "I wanna do this job," right? A
Uh-huh.
lot of my students come in and they're like, "I wanna be an XYZ cybersecurity analyst." And I'm like, "Well, that job isn't that's not for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
you may have to start your first co-op may need to be an IT help desk role
Mhm.
before you even your fifth co-op might be a cybersecurity role." But
Yeah.
I think we're pushing students to make these choices so early on that that exploration piece sort of goes away, and they're picking a job title and how to get to that job title, and then again, there's not much resiliency when that doesn't work out.
Out. Yeah,
Yeah.
which makes total sense because I'm all about the exploration piece
Mhm.
because it's like in K-12, that's like the one time really that like for free
Yes.
you have the opportunity to have the exposure to
Yes.
all the things. But it is more about like developing the skills and working at it that way as opposed to like, I know I want to be rich, so I'm going to choose
Right.
this one job that makes
Right.
X amount of money supposedly.
Right.
But they don't have that realistic understanding that you don't just like walk out of college necessarily and do that.
Exactly.
You have to, yeah.
I have a student and she has this and she has for a while, she's had this idea, like her dream. We talk about
Uh-huh.
dreams a lot, right? It's always about like,
Uh-huh.
what's the dream? And go for the dream, shoot for the stars. And she said she's graduating, she's getting ready to graduate.
Okay.
And she said, "My dream has always been to move. My plan and my dream has been to graduate and move to Chicago. And my dream firm that I want to work for is XYZ." And she didn't get a job at XYZ firm, but she did get offered a really great role in Cincinnati. And so now she's trying to figure out, and this is like real life things, right? You and
Yeah.
I could have the same situation, and how would we deal with it? But she's trying to figure out, I have been seeing this, manifesting this path for so long, and now it didn't work out. And so am I a failure? Even
Mhm.
though she has a wonderful job opportunity at a place in Cincinnati that might actually be a better opportunity for her, she's seeing it almost as a failure instead
Aw.
of right? Because she didn't
Yeah.
achieve the dream that's been in her mind for so long, and those are the types of things I think we have to start to just be aware of, that we're not doing it on purpose, right? We're trying
Yeah.
to help students plan, but are we doing it to a fault?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cause yeah, I want her to be proud of herself.
That's what I said. I said, "Sit back and
Yeah.
look at, if this were in Chicago, would you take this job?" She's like, "100%." I was like, "Well, okay. Maybe you're meant to
Yeah.
be in Cincinnati for a year or 2 or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you move to Chicago. It doesn't have to look the way you've always envisioned it looking, because life just doesn't work like that."
No, not at all. Not at all. And it could be she may not even know it yet, but the job in Cincinnati could be preparing her
Right? Right.
for and that's the thing. You just never know until you're like reflecting.
Exactly.
You can't know ahead of time.
It's
You
like a
can't know ahead of
trust the
time.
yeah, it's like a trust the process,
Yes.
right? Which is
Yes.
hard to do,
It is.
but
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you want to control the situation and you want it a
Uh-huh.
certain like yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I want that too.
Yeah.
But I
Yes.
I've been around long enough to
To
know that
know.
that's just not how it works.
Yeah. And I say all the time, like, you just go with it.
You go with it. Exactly. I know, that's what I need to I should write that. I should do 2 things. I should write that on the board every time I walk in my classroom, just go with
Just go
it.
with it.
And I should put that as my Zoom background when I'm talking to my co-op students and
Students,
advising them. Just go with it.
go with it. Yep. Because you don't. You just make a choice and
Yeah,
you'll see if it works out.
exactly.
And if it doesn't, you make a different choice and
You do.
there you are. So,
You do.
yeah. All right. So, okay. Um, have you seen any student examples where early exposure, like high school coding clubs, career tech programs, or internships, really helped students excel in the co-op?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a program with Cincinnati Public Schools. It's
Oh,
called
okay.
Early IT. And so we have students that will start learning coding and some tech skills in high school, and then they get admission into the School of IT at UC. And those
Oh.
are typically your students. I mean, it's kind of funny, right? We were just talking about not doing some of these things, but they can be done really well. It's just we don't want to force students to make a choice.
Yeah.
There are some students that know their path and are
Mhm.
very confident in that. There are other students that aren't quite sure and I think are pushed to make a choice and stick with that choice that they're just not comfortable with and
Yeah.
afraid at that point to pivot. But in cases where you do have those students that, have always been really interested in STEM and going through projects and all sorts of stuff since elementary school, and they're in high school and they're part of the coding club or early IT with Cincinnati Public Schools, those are great opportunities for students to get a head start and see what it's like to maybe be a part of curriculum and some programming at a higher level.
Mhm.
So, our early IT students, they're taking college classes in high school, but they could decide at any point after they finish a class, that's not the route I want to take, and I want to do something different, right? And I
Yeah.
think that is the point of all of this. That's the exploration that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And things like coding clubs are doing the same thing. It's I see those as true exploration mechanisms that allow a student to figure it out before it becomes, oh, I'm paying a lot of money, I'm paying tuition to go and do this thing that I'm just not sure about or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So yes, and students come in, and when I'm looking at their resumes, because I mentioned in my professional development co-op class, Intro to Co-op, students come in and they have all these things they did on their resume from high school, right? As they
Mhm.
should, because they
Yeah.
don't have anything else. And you have the students that have all of this technology experience and they've done these projects and they're pretty impressive. So to have that before even entering college can be really helpful. I think it's a confidence builder for
Mhm.
students to come in and know that they already have some of the experience and expertise, sort of expertise
Yeah.
that they'll need in some of their classes. So I don't think things like that can hurt because again, I
Yeah.
think they are just more exploration driven.
Yeah, and it goes back too to the exposure. Not
Yep,
only the exploration, but the exposure to the fact
exposure.
that, like, this is a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think
Yeah.
about, I still think
We
about that with my own self,
Right.
you
I
know?
know. We didn't have much exposure, did we?
Yeah.
It was
No.
we didn't have much, but we have some really we have some programming where students come in and we have within the School of IT students who are getting a bachelor's degree in IT. We have tracks and there's like a game development track. And
Oh,
so
cool.
we have students who have been gaming, all their life, and they'll come in and now they're on that side of actually creating the video
Like,
games, which is really neat to see. If you're an educator, if you're, listening to this and within the education realm, which my guess is you are, really reflect on what you can do to help students gain that exposure to all of the career possibilities that are out there without pushing them in one specific direction, and really utilize the time that they're in, the K-12 sphere to allow them to dream, but not get stuck on one particular dream that then they see as failure later. They see themselves as a failure later on if they don't reach it.
yeah.
And that's, I think, the most important takeaway from my perspective, because by the
Hmm.
time these students get to me, we want them to be really excited to get out there into the
Yeah.
workforce. We don't want them to feel like, they're being pigeonholed into one specific space or area just because that's what they've always thought or always said that they were
Hmm.
going to do. So
Yeah.
just
I,
reflect on that and give yourself and students opportunities to explore and experiment and be exposed to all of the different things that are out there.
I think that's a great way to leave it. So,
Thank
yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you found our discussion interesting and insightful. Don't forget to check out the show notes on our website where you'll find more information about today's guest, resources we mentioned, and information on earning contact hours for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with your network, and check us out at fortheloveofedtech.org. This podcast is produced by SOIDA, the Southwestern Ohio Instructional Technology Association, in partnership with Think TV and CET, the local PBS stations in Dayton and Cincinnati. Until next time, keep exploring new ways to empower your students through tech, and we'll catch you in the next episode.